A very mesmerizing noon to everyone. Welcome back, dear students, to your online class of English, and I'm back with the poem Aunt Jennifer's Tiger, written by Adrienne Rich. In my last video, we have already discussed about the two stanzas of the poem. Let me quickly give you a brief idea of the poem again. We were talking about Aunt Jennifer, and she was doing embroidery. She created tigers, prance, and jump over a screen. She has made them with woolen thread, and they look bright like the shining yellow topaz. They are proud and fearless. Who? The tigers. The tigers do not fear the men standing under the tree. They pace in a dignified manner. Aunt Jennifer's hands are moving about her wool, but it is not an easy and smooth task for her. She finds it hard to pull the ivory needle with which she makes her tiger. The heavy weight of the marriage band that associates her with her husband sits heavily upon her hand, means she feels oppressed, tied down by that weight. So we were talking about Aunt Jennifer, and we came to know in the last two stanzas that she was highly terrified by her husband. She was very much afraid of her husband. She was having a hobby of embroidering on the things, but when she gets to know that my husband will get to know about my pursuing hobby, he will definitely scold me. She was afraid, she was terrified, she was horrified, and that's the reason she could not even have the courage to pull the needle properly. Her hands were shaking, quivering at that moment. So dear students, now let us begin with stanza 3. When Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and afraid. Let me quickly tell you the meaning of the words first. So massive, very large, heavy or solid, as I already told you. Here mastered means controlled and managed. There is a word, mastered. Mastered means managed and controlled, and ordeals, as I already told you, difficult and unpleasant experiences in life. You can say that is known as ordeals. Difficult and unpleasant experiences. Okay, ordeals. Now what's happening in third stanza? Basically, her wish to live a free, fearless life is indicated by her choice of design, that is tigers. Actually, Aunt Jennifer also wants to live a fearless life like tigers, but she could not. So she is just showing that thing through her embroidery. She's just showing what she longs for through her embroidery. It shows her innermost desire of being strong. She wanted to be strong, though she is not. Fearless, which has been overpowered by her husband. Probably her ordeal will end upon her death. She thinks that probably, maybe, all these problems which I have in my married life, all these difficult and unpleasant experiences, it will end when I will die. Her frightened, shaking fingers will be put to rest. At least in the last, my shaking fingers will find some sort of rest. Very deep lines these are, students. But still, even after death, the ring shall remain on her hand. That is, her husband's rule over her is not yet over. See the sense. How beautifully poetess Adrienne Rich has showcased, has tried to depict, tried to tell us this thing, that ring after her death also will be in her hand, and after her death also she will not be free. She will be ruled by her husband because of that ring. After her death, her desire of freedom and fearlessness shall remain alive in these tigers which she has embroidered. The poet says that one can easily sense Aunt's desire for freedom and fearlessness through her designs of tigers. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and afraid. Further, she says that it is not possible for Aunt to achieve this freedom during her lifetime. अपनी लाइफ में जब तक वो अलाइव थी उसको कभी ऐसी फ्रीडम मिली ही नहीं. शी नेवर एंजॉयड दैट फ्रीडम. शी विल अटेन इट, शी विल गेट दैट फ्रीडम only after her death. But here also the irony of her life is that still she will be tied up with the shackles in the form of her husband's wedding ring. When Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie. See, in these lines, when Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeal she was mastered by. Means after death also she will not be free because of that ring which is there in her hand. The ring was the sole proof of the tortures which she had faced from her husband. On the other hand, there are the tigers designed by Aunt Jennifer. Here, in these last two lines here, the tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid. On the other hand, the tigers which are designed by Aunt Jennifer, which will always depict her desire. वो हमेशा ये दिखाएंगे कि जो Aunt Jennifer थी वो हमेशा यही उनकी यही इच्छा थी कि वो एक fearless life जी पाएं. Her desire of living a fearless life by jumping proudly and bravely on the piece of cloth. Ringed with ordeals. Means this is an image which suggests the struggle of the human spirit. इतना कुछ उन्होंने झेला था अपनी मैरिड लाइफ में. इट शोज़ द स्ट्रगल ऑफ द ह्यूमन स्पिरिट अगेंस्ट ऑप्रेशन, डोमिनेंस एंड इनजस्टिस. Okay, now let us talk about the literary devices which are used here. Again, the rhyme scheme, students. Lie by A, made, unafraid, B. So rhyming scheme is A, B. Further, alliteration is used here. Prancing, proud. So P sound is repeating. So that is why alliteration is being used. Okay. Let us quickly have a look on summary of stanza 3. The last stanza starts on a creepy note about Aunt Jennifer's death. Even her death couldn't free her from the ordeals she went through, which can be seen in when Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie still ringed with ordeal she was mastered by. But her artwork, which was her escape route, you can say, or in a way her inner sense of freedom, will stay forever proud and unafraid. क्योंकि उन्होंने चूज़ किसे किया था? उन्होंने चूज़ एक ऐसा fearless animal किया था, that is tiger. So tiger will always remain fearless, unafraid. Okay, so now let's have a look at the background of the poem beta. Aunt Jennifer's Tiger is a poem by Edwin Rich illustrating her feminist concerns, feminist related to women. In the male dominant world, a woman of her time was only supposed to be a dutiful homemaker. You all might be knowing, still in some backward areas it's still there, these practices are still taking place, that women are not allowed to go out, or so many restrictions are put on women. Okay, so that time also women were supposed to be a dutiful homemaker only. This poem, Through the World of Aunt Jennifer, tells us about her inner desire to free herself from the clutches of abusive marriage and patriarchal society. Patriarchal, I told you the meaning. Patriarchal means male dominant society. See, beta, we put a lot of rules, restrictions on women. Still, it is happening in many parts all over the world. But somewhere inside their heart, these women who were put a lot of restrictions also have the desire for freedom. They also want to live a fearless, free life without any restrictions, without any burdens. Okay, so this is the glossary which I have already told you when I was explaining you the poem. Let's have a quick look again. Prance means to spring forward on hind legs, to strut about, to pass a clear yellowish brown gemstone. Denizens, inhabitants, a person, an animal, or a plant that lives, grows, or is often found in a particular place. Chivalric means gallant and respectful, especially to women. Wedding band only. Ring, you can say. Ordeals, a painful or trying experience. Sleek, elegant. Fluttering, to flap or wave quickly but irregularly. Pace, a step taken with the foot. Poetic devices and figures of speech we have already discussed, but still let's have a look. Alliteration, fingers fluttering, F sound is repeating. Prancing proud, again P sound is repeating. A symbol of oppression would yet be on her finger. And then visual imagery, bright to ringed by the ordeals she was controlled by in her marriage life. Okay, then further there are many symbols which we have discussed in the poem. Let's have a look. Wedding band, symbol of oppression in an unhappy marriage. Its weight refers to the burden of gender expectations. Ringed means encircled or trapped here, losing individuality and freedom. Aunt Jennifer, a typical victim of male oppression in an unhappy marriage, who suffers loss of individuality, dignity, and personal freedom silently. She becomes dependent, fearful, and frail. Tigers symbolize untamed, free spirit which you cannot tame, which you cannot control. Here, they stand in contrast to their creator's personality. Who is their creator in this? Aunt Jennifer. She has created, embroidered them on that screen. So that is why she is the creator. The use of colors implies that Aunt Jennifer's tigers and their land are more vital and enjoy a sense of freedom far greater than her. They pace and prance freely, proudly, fearlessly, confidently, majestically, fearless of men. Then yellow bright topaz. It tells the yellowish color, sun and fierce energy. It also describes the sun and the fierce energy. Green reminds one of spring and vitality, and here it means forest. Embroidery, symbol of creative expression. The artwork expresses the aunt's suppressed desires and becomes her escape from the oppressive reality of her life. In the last stanza, Aunt, as opposed to Aunt Jennifer, it shows that she has lost her identity completely, thus lost even her name. So that was all about our poem. Now let's just quickly have a look. Well, dear students, I just want to discuss with you about the title of this poem. How apt is the title of this poem? Okay, so the title of the poem by Adrienne Rich is quite appropriate. How? Let me tell you. Because it is linked to the main idea of the poem. The tigers of Aunt Jennifer are not real, ferocious tigers. They are created in the panel with wool by the aunt herself. The denizens of the green forest look as bright as shining topaz. They look proud, dignified, and unafraid. The poet presents them as a totally different from the personality of their creator. Aunt Jennifer feels encircled by the ordeals and hardships of married life. She is terrified of her bad experiences. She is timid, but the desire to be free and fearless lurks somewhere in her heart. She articulates this hidden desire by creating free and fearless tigers. The poet underlines the fact of the superiority of art over life. He says that even after the death of the aunt, her tigers will go on prancing, proud and fearless. Throughout the poem, thus, tigers remain in focus. Thus, the title of the poem is apt and suggestive. Okay. So dear students, there are few extract based questions, like if the poem is really very short poem it is, right? So there could be one of the question like, what does the word prance in line 1 suggest? So it means the quick movement of tigers over the screen, or you can say the jumping of the tiger over the screen, right? Then why are they described as denizens of a world of green? So they are described as denizens of a world of green because they are limited on the screen with wool and look like the inhabitants of the jungle. Okay, then there could be another question like, find even the ivory needle hard to pull. From stanza 2 I am talking about. Find even the ivory needle hard to pull. Explain. So Aunt Jennifer, she had a harrowing experience in her married life. She was having a very bad experience in her married life. So she felt so dejected that even pulling an ivory needle was a difficult task for her. She was so afraid of her husband. She was so terrified by her husband that even, pulling up an ivory needle was a difficult task for her. Then another question could be like, what does the wedding band signify? The wedding band signifies a bond between husband and wife. Of course it is. The ring, the wedding band. And in the case of Aunt Jennifer, it has lost all its significance. कोई मतलब ही नहीं था उस बैंड का, क्योंकि वो बैंड तो बस एक फॉर्मेलिटी थी. Aunt Jennifer was not having any emotions. It has become only a symbol of suppression for Aunt Jennifer. Okay. Then from stanza number 3, there could be a question like, what will the terrified hands reveal? Reveal means to show, what they show. So the terrified hands will reveal the ordeals of Aunt Jennifer's married life. Ordeals, bache, this word is coming again and again in this poem, and I want you that you should know the meaning of this word, difficult and unpleasant experiences, and you should use it. Okay, then there could be another question like this way. The prancing tigers in the panel are Aunt Jennifer's creations, right? What do they reveal about Aunt Jennifer? मतलब जो उन्होंने एम्ब्रॉयडरी करी थी उससे क्या पता चलता था आंट जेनिफर के बारे में? क्या हमें पता चल रहा था? क्या दिखाना चाहता था? Aunt Jennifer's fearless tigers, which she has embroidered, which she has created, reveal her inner longings. Longings means desires to be fearless, proud, and dignified. Okay, so this is how the stanza based question may come in the exam. So you should know like what is suggested by the image, massive weight of uncle's wedding band. So what is suggested? There are some words which you should use in this poem, that is like oppressed, suppressed, dominance, crushed, overpowered by these ordeals, right? And these words you should use. Okay, so tell me the answer. Massive weight of uncle's wedding band. So massive weight of uncle's wedding band, this image conveys that Aunt Jennifer feels the heavy pressure of the ordeals of her marriage. वो वेट जो था, वो जो रिंग था, वो जो वेडिंग बैंड था, वो बहुत एक बर्डन था उनके ऊपर. इट वॉज अ काइंड ऑफ अ बर्डन, हैवी प्रेशर. शी फील्स ऑप्रेस्ड बाय दैट बैंड, बाय हर हस्बैंड्स डोमिनेंस ओवर हर. Okay, so let us quickly have a look on some other questions of this poem, like what could be some other questions. Yes, then further there could be questions like what are the ordeals Aunt Jennifer is surrounded by? Why is it significant that the poet uses the word ringed? What are the meanings of the word ringed in the poem? Ringed word क्यों use करा है उसने? So Aunt Jennifer is surrounded by the ordeals of her marriage life. ये तो सबको now till now it's been clear to everybody now. The poet uses the word ringed in order to convey that she is overpowered by these ordeals. The word indicates the sacred bond of marriage. It also means encircled. Okay, it also means encircled, right? So then there could be another question. There may be a question which can be framed in this way, like what are the difficulties that Aunt Jennifer faced in her life? So dear students, Aunt Jennifer was a victim of oppression at the hands of the patriarchal society. She was subjugated by her husband, and the wedding band lay heavy on her hand. She was so terrified that her hands fluttered even when she carried something so light as knitting needles and wool. Okay, so I mean, you should be prepared with the literary devices, with all these metaphors, images, symbols which has been used in the poem, because it can be asked in any way. Okay, like if suppose let me ask you another question, like what is suggested by the phrase massive weight of uncle's wedding band? So that means that refers to what? The responsibilities of marriage and oppression in a male dominated society which Aunt Jennifer experiences. Then another question, what will happen when Aunt Jennifer is dead? What will happen to Aunt Jennifer's tigers when she is dead? So what shall be the answer to this question? The poet, she says that when Aunt Jennifer is dead, when Aunt Jennifer is dead, her tigers will go on prancing, proud and fearless. This means that art endures beyond human life, and that's true also. The human being dies, but art survives, art persists. Okay, so that means that art endures beyond human life. It also shows that her longing for freedom from male domination will endure forever, even after she dies also. Then there could be another question, like why does Aunt Jennifer create animals that are so different from her? Then further there could be another question, like why does Aunt Jennifer create animals that are so different from her own character? For Aunt Jennifer, what do the tigers symbolize? Or why do you think Aunt Jennifer created animals that are so different from her own character? What might the poet be suggesting through this difference? So what could be the answer to this question? Aunt Jennifer created tigers. She is creating tigers which are a symbol of strength, fearlessness and confidence. These are the qualities that Aunt Jennifer lacks in herself. So these tigers represent Aunt Jennifer's suppressed desires to become bold and fearless and free from oppression. The poet wants to suggest that women need to have these qualities to fight against their oppressors. Okay. Then बच्चे, there could be a long question just like this. Analyze the symbols and poetic devices employed in the poem, which we have already done, so I don't think there is any use of repetition. Then write the sum and substance of the poem Aunt Jennifer's Tiger. So what is the sum and substance means? What is the, you can say, the crux? What is the main thing? So you can write this way, like this poem is based on the point of showing bravery and pacing the ordeals like a knight. We should be courageous enough to face the troubles. Aunt Jennifer has created tigers who are different from her character. They are roaming boldly in the forest without caring for the men. They step there with chivalric certainty. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band is hard to bear by Aunt Jennifer. Her fingers are moving through her wool and she is tormented as well as her mind is troubled very much. Her hands are terrified and are only ringed with ordeals which she has mastered. Even then, the tigers which have been created in her panel are stepping proudly and unafraid. Okay, so I mean this is an overview of the question answers, stanza based, long question answers, short question answers. So बच्चे, we have done with our poem. I just want you all, dear students, to read this poem, feel this poem. In fact, I want you all to feel this poem. Then further there could be another question like why does Aunt Jennifer create animals that are so different from her own character? For Aunt Jennifer, what do the tigers symbolize? Or why do you think Aunt Jennifer created animals that are so different from her own character? What might the poet be suggesting through this difference? So what could be the answer to this question? Aunt Jennifer created tigers. She is creating tigers which are a symbol of strength, fearlessness and confidence. These are the qualities that Aunt Jennifer lacks in herself. So these tigers represent Aunt Jennifer's suppressed desires to become bold and fearless and free from oppression. The poet wants to suggest that women need to have these qualities to fight against their oppressors. Okay. Then बच्चे, there could be a long question just like this. Analyze the symbols and poetic devices employed in the poem, which we have already done, so I don't think there is any use of repetition. Then write the sum and substance of the poem Aunt Jennifer's Tiger. So what is the sum and substance means? What is the, you can say, the crux? What is the main thing? So you can write this way, like this poem is based on the point of showing bravery and pacing the ordeals like a knight. We should be courageous enough to face the troubles. Aunt Jennifer has created tigers who are different from her character. They are roaming boldly in the forest without caring for the men. They step there with chivalric certainty. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band is hard to bear by Aunt Jennifer. Her fingers are moving through her wool and she is tormented as well as her mind is troubled very much. Her hands are terrified and are only ringed with ordeals which she has mastered. Even then, the tigers which have been created in her panel are stepping proudly and unafraid. Okay, so this is an overview of the question answers, stanza based, long question answers, short question answers. So bache, we have done with our poem. I just want you all, dear students, to read this poem, feel this poem. In fact, I want you all to feel this poem, so I want you all to feel this poem. I think it is enough from my side. We have completed it. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay indoors. Bye bye. Have a wonderful day ahead.